Hey everybody, it's Kaladesh, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'm going to be playing another premiere draft of Kaladesh Remastered. Without further ado, let's get into the Pack 1 Pick 1 here. Not the greatest pack in the universe, we've got some pretty solid commons, but I'm not a huge fan of any of the uncommons or the rare here. For the commons, I really like Self-Assembler since it is a colorless spell. It'll fit into any deck that you play, and it's an excellent card to have at the top end of your curve, as long as you draft at least 2 copies of it. So it's a 5-mana 4/4 that draws you a card when it hits the board, and that card that it draws is guaranteed to be another 5-mana 4/4 to jam out the next turn. So it's really good top end for any deck at all. So it's super open, and it's a super reasonable card, so I like taking it highly. There's also great removal with Daring Demolition and a great counterspell with Metallic Rebuke. I think those are the best commons. I don't love the Key to the City because you have to spend so much mana to get your cards back out of this, and the Visionary Augmenter is solid, but I think it's about the same kind of power level as Self-Assembler, so since Self-Assembler is a colorless card instead of an actually colored spell that would tie us into a specific strategy, I'm going to take the Self-Assembler over the Visionary Augmenter, being the primary competition for it. For Pack 1 pick number 2 now, got a Voltaic Brawler for hopping right onto red-green energy. We've got Aether Chaser as the strongest common in the pack. All of these 2-mana energy Aether cards are really good, because it gives you the energy you need to spend to its ability. So it's a 2-mana 2/1 first strike that comes with a 1/1 servo as soon as it attacks once, which is an incredible rate. But there's also Prophetic Prism here, which would be similar to the Self-Assembler in that we can fit it into any deck. It can help us do some splashing around if we see a good reason to do that. And it's just the most open card to take that ends up in our deck a good chunk of the time. So I think I'll go for Prophetic Prism. Stay nice and safe and open here, but Aether Chaser is such a strong common, I could see a pretty good argument for just taking that. Now for Pack 1 Pick 3, we get to take another copy of Self-Assembler and be very happy with that. There's other pretty solid commons here, like another Prophetic Prism or an Inventor's Goggles. I think all of these are solid ways to stay open, taking a colorless card that fits well in most decks in the format. There's a lot of very solid Artificers. They're some of the best creatures at common, so Inventor's Goggles tends to play pretty well for a lot of different decks. So that's another card that's pretty open like the other colorless cards in the pack. Strongest card in terms of just pure power level is probably still Self-Assembler, but Night Market Lookout is actually close. This works really well with vehicles, particularly ones that crew for only 1 power, because then you can make sure that even later in the game, your 1-drop stays relevant and keeps draining your opponent for life. So Night Market Lookout is much more impressive than it looks because this is a format with vehicles. For Pack 1 pick number 4, got that Inventor's Goggles for sticking to purely colorless spells, but we've also got excellent instant speed removal with Welding Sparks, as well as a great finisher with a Dawnfeather Eagle, and some great mana ramp with Servant of the Conduit. I think because we have double Self-Assemblers, so we've got Self-Assemblers cluttering up our pile of finishers, our pile of 5-drops, we probably say that Dawnfeather Eagle is like the 3rd best card for us here. It's really between Servant of the Conduit and the Welding Sparks, and the Servant to ramp into the Assembler is pretty cute, but the Welding Sparks, like that instant speed interaction, is really, really good in this format. It's not much better removal than that. I'm going to go for Welding Sparks over the Servant, but I think either way is a very solid pick. Pick number 5, now we have a Sky Skiff, another fantastic colorless spell that fits into any deck. There's plenty of just like 1-power creatures, like Druid of the Cowl, that it's like you get your mana out of it early, and once you have enough mana and don't need it anymore, the Sky Skiff gives you a great way to keep using it, make sure you keep getting damage in. But there's also all the servo tokens that you can fabricate off of cards like Glint Sleeve Artisan. I think Sky Skiff is phenomenal. It's pretty much just as strong as the best mono-colored cards in this pack, like Gear Seeker Serpent, Druid of the Cowl, or Rush of Vitality, and it's completely colorless, so it makes our deck no matter what. So another great, great open pick to take there. Pick number 6, things have gotten considerably weaker. None of these cards are super premium. I think the best is probably Druid of the Cowl for ramping into these Self-Assemblers, but that's not the most exciting pick in the world. Pick number 7 is a pretty exciting pick. You need a good artifact count for a Glint Nest Crane, ideally 10 or more. But if you can get a nice chunky count, a 2-mana 1/3 flyer that draws a card when it hits the board is an excellent, excellent deal. So we're going to take that here. These energy cards are also pretty good. The Shipwreck Mori, just because it gives you so much energy when it hits the board, and the flexibility of changing its power and toughness around makes it a reasonable card by itself. That's also just excellent with other energy cards. And the Thriving Turtle is also nice again by itself, giving you the energy to make it a 1/4 the first time it attacks. Pick 8 Aether Chaser is actually criminal. If you learn nothing else from these drafts before you head into the format yourself, know that the 2-mana Aether cards are fantastic. Again, 2 mana for a 2/1 first strike and a 1/1 body. That is so much stats for such a cheap mana cost that even if this were in Lost Caverns of Ixalan or Wilds of Eldraine, one of these recent really high power formats, it would still be a premium common. Pick number 9. I believe there was an Aether Chaser in this pack as well. Maybe that was pick 2. Yeah, no, the pack that we opened up was where we took Self-Assembler over pretty much nothing. I think pick number 2, there was another Aether Chaser. So if we get a pick 10 Aether Chaser, we are living in magical Christmas land. As for this pack, there's nothing much. Gremlins is fine if we've got a super high artifact count. But I'd rather just take Eddy Trailhawk for the slightly better card, because I think I would end up just cutting Gremlins. Pick number 10, we did not get the Aether Chaser back, which is fair enough. There's a Riparian Tiger for another finisher. Go with our double Self-Assembler. We can also take just a solid flyer for the middle of the curve if we end up in blue. Take the Hinterland Drake again, because any more Self-Assemblers that we see, we're going to pick those up as well. And that's just going to mean we have tons and tons of 5-drops. Plenty of stuff to do from that point. Pick 11, Night Market Lookout's easily the best card in the pack. And pick 12, Inventor's Goggles. This card is really, really good on an Aether Chaser. So there's other red Artificers that it's incredible with. There's a 4-mana 3/3 Menace. That's an Artificer, so you make that a 4-mana 4/5 Menace if you have Inventor's Goggles on the board. So that can be really gross. Alright, so we have so many colorless cards here that we're not really tied to anything, but definitely, I think, mostly towards red, because Welding Sparks and Aether Chaser are both pretty premium, and the Aether Chaser was like pick 8, which is a solid sign for the color. For pack 2, pick 1, we get a 3rd Self-Assembler. The more the merrier with this card. The harder, like, the more you have, the harder it is for your opponent to break through all of it, but it does have some fierce competition. There's another Aether card, the Aether Swooper. Spoken my piece on these cards a lot. They are fantastic. And there's also a Cultivator's Caravan, which fits into our deck no matter what. It is solid fixing that is also just a beefy vehicle for a not too prohibitive crew cost. I think these 3 are the best cards, but Vengeful Rebel's also very good. A little sad that they're all clumped up in one pack here. I think I just take another Self-Assembler, because really it is the more the merrier with those cards. If you can get like 4 copies, you just have unstoppable endgame. Your opponent has to somehow break through a million 5-mana 4/4s at the top of the curve, just an endless swarm of them. Okay, I've got 2 really nice blue spells, 2 really nice red spells, 1 okay green spell, and a bunch of filler in white. I don't think we're looking headed towards red-black with Unlicensed Disintegration. I don't think Fatal Push is incredibly great in Draft and Sealed. It's excellent in Constructed for the efficiency. I think we have enough blue to take this Aether Swooper here. Get some swoop-diddy-whoop, whoop-diddy-scoop in the deck. Yeah, let's get an Aether Swooper, I think. Heading towards blue-red artifacts. There's another Aether Swooper, which is fantastic. There's also a 4th Self-Assembler. 3's already looking real good. Don't want to have just no mana curve. And Aether Swooper is also super good with the Inventor's Goggles, turning it into a 2-mana, 2/4 flyer. If we have the Inventor's Goggles slapping itself onto them. Yeah, I'm I'm going to focus on the mana curve on this one. Since we took the Self-Assembler over the Aether Swooper earlier, we'll take the Swooper over the Assembler this time. And maybe we're really lucky and nobody respects Self-Assembler in the draft pod, and we can just get it to come right back around. That would be incredible. So I'll take Swooper. Best card in the pack is Long Tusk Cub, but I think I'm starting to commit towards blue-red rather than hopping around between colors every pack still. This is a pretty easy Hungry Flames. 3 to a creature, 2 to the player. Yeah, we could take a Prophetic Prism or a Renegade map for fixing, but I think Hungry Flames is solid removal to take here. $13 cards right now. We get another Hinterland Drake for another 3-drop flyer. Good curve of evasive threats in this deck. Seems good to me. Pick number 6. Implementive Examination is fine card draw, and we do want more artifacts in the deck with a Glint Nest Crane. We have 6 right now, so we only need a few more. But I feel like an Implement is more likely to make the cut than a Reckless Fireweaver because we already have 4 2-drop creatures that are all better than the Fireweaver. Yeah, I'll take the Implement of Examination. There's another Aether Chaser. Pack 2, pick 7. Feels good to get all these Aether cards. And this is going to be the draft where we're really going to show how great these are. 2 mana for a 1/2 flyer and a 1/1. 2 mana for a 2/1 first strike and a 1/1. Let's get that wild board state. Aether Tradewinds is okay with a lot of Enter the Battlefield effects like Glint Nest Cranes and all these Aether cards, but Gremlins is also okay when you have this many servo producers. So I'll actually take Gremlins. I'm going to get more creatures in here. Pick 9, Aether Swooper. We're living in Magical Christmas Land. There's also a really late Inventor's Goggles, so we might be able to pick up a few more copies of those if those continue to go late. Leave in the Dest is perfectly fine. Interaction, bounce something and draw a card. So it replaces itself in the card economy. Now Aspire Side Infiltrator is okay with vehicles. We've got 1 Sky Skiff, but that's it. I still like it better than Frontline Rebel, I think. Built to Smash is fine if you're super aggressive. It's really cheap. 1 mana for +3/+3. And we'll get 2 copies of that. I think we're just looking for creatures now. Yeah, 13 creatures, 9 non-creatures. We're mainly looking for creatures, but we can also just do anything that improves the deck. This is a full deck already. This is 23 cards. We're done. Call it a deck here. We're golden. Let's head into the gameplay. Yeah, I love this deck. This is going to be a sweet, sweet deck. Now we get to take a Bomat Bazaar Barge, which is an excellent value play. Draws us a card when it hits the board. It's also a crew 3 for a 5/5, so it's a beefy vehicle. We take this because there's a 0% chance it wheels, and while I don't think Aether Swooper is going to come back, I didn't think it would come back last pack either, and we got one pick 9, so it's possible we get another pick 9 Aether Swooper. Not possible we get a pick 9 Bomat Bazaar Barge, though, since it is colorless. We've got a real solid artifact count, so Inventor's Apprentice will be a 1 mana 2/3, but I also really like having a 4th Self-Assembler. Since the last one did get scooped up, this is not going to wheel, and being able to, in every single game, have an endless onslaught from turn 5 onward is just really powerful. Pack 3, pick 3, there's another Bomat Bazaar Barge? I think there is diminishing returns from the second, because it is kind of expensive, kind of chunky at 4 mana there. I'd rather get my first Aether Torch Renegade than my second Bomat Bazaar Barge, but they're both definitely very good cards and would be solid additions to this deck. Pack 3, pick 4. We've got 5 super premium Artificers. I think the Inventor's Goggles should play really nicely in this deck, and they give us more artifacts for the Glint Nest Crane as well. So take the Goggles here over the Quicksmith Genius, that's about it. Probably cutting the Built to Smash is running the Goggles over them, because we don't have infinite space for just cards that supplement our current creatures, like make our current creatures a little better. What a pickup. We got a Maverick Thopterist, 5 mana for a 2/2 and 2 1/1 Thopters, and it's potentially cheaper than 5 mana because you can tap your artifacts to help cast it, like your servo tokens that you have sitting around. So easy Maverick Thopterist. Card is insane. This deck is so good. Anyways, I'm going to cut those built to smashes because, again, you only have so much room you can have for cards that are just buffing your other creatures. We take an Aether Theorist here. It's a good chunk of energy to use for our other Aether cards. This isn't what I was referring to as the busted 2-mana Aether cards. I'm really talking about the ones that have attack triggers to make servos. But this one's still pretty good. It's good at helping the other ones out, if nothing else. 5th Self-Assembler, let's go! I am actually going to just explode from excitement this draft. I need to calm down. This deck is way too much up my alley here with 5 self-assemblers. Whatever else is going on in the deck, I don't care what color pair we are, what archetype we are. If I get to draft a 5 self-assembler deck in this format, I am in magical Christmas land. And I'm just having way too much fun. This is an insane pile of cards. We have incredible early game, and we've got an unstoppable top end. I mean, it's not unstoppable. If our opponent has like good bomb late game plays, they can absolutely just like outrace us or blow us up or something, but unstoppable just means like it's relentless. You know, like you get to turn 5, and from that point onward is usually when people are down to like 1 or 2 cards in hand, and things can quickly sort of become a top deck war there. That just never happens when you have 5 self-assemblers. You play your first and your opponent's like, oh my god, I'm gonna be playing against a 4/4 every turn for 5 turns in a row now. You are guaranteed to keep hitting a large creature your next 4 turns after casting the first one. It's so good. It's so nice, and I am so excited about this deck. So we have 47 cards right now, 21 of which are creatures, 9 of which are non-creatures. We want to cut down to like 17 creatures max here. We've got 2 vehicles as well, which is just quite a lot when it comes to threats. So we want to cut like 4 creatures here to start things off for the cuts just immediately. We have so many high quality and just consistent creatures here, it's really hard to choose what to cut. I think I'm just going to focus really hard on the energy synergies, the energy mechanics here. Cut like the Fire Weaver that doesn't really do any energy stuff. Can hit for a decent bit of damage since we are producing servos and stuff, but it is still like a 1/3 body, and I've got so many other 2-drops here. Maybe the Aether Theorist again, just because it's also a 1/3 body. My least favorite creatures are the 3-drops of Spireside Infiltrator and Salivating Gremlins here. But again, we've got servo production that the Gremlins can be attacking as a 4/3 trample a good amount of the time. When they're not, though, they're really bad, just a 2/3 for 3. The Infiltrator crews our Beaumont Bazaar Barge really well, but doesn't really do much else. I like the evasive threats of like the Hinterland Drakes, but they're not the most synergistic card in the whole deck. Basically, everything else here is either synergistic with energy abilities, or is just like so good that we're not going to cut it, like 5 self-assemblers or a Maverick Thopterist or something like that. So some combination of 4 of these creatures would be the cut. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. So what 2 creatures out of this pile would we want to put in the curve to make the mana curve as decent as possible? I think it would be 2 3-drops. So just like put the 2 Drakes back in and cut the rest of these. Seems like a solid idea. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think that's how we're going to do it here. And then we need to cut 3 of our non-creature cards. Prophetic Prism in a 2-color deck is pretty redundant. Implement of Examination is not really necessary when we have so much card advantage from self-assemblers. Because these start that endless chain of hitting each other, if we draw 1 self-assembler throughout the game, we're going to draw all of them, which means every single one is kind of like a 5-for-1. So with that alone, we don't really need card draw, but there's other potential card advantage like Glint Nest Crane, being able to pull out one of our vehicles or our self-assemblers. So let's cut those 2, and then we just need to cut 1 more card and we're good. I don't really want to cut any interaction here, which is 2 removal spells plus 1 bounce spell. I don't want to cut any of those. So maybe 1 of the Inventor's Goggles, but we've got double Aether Chaser, triple Aether Super, and all of those are really nice to get those goggles onto. Maybe we cut one of the self-assemblers? We're not cutting a land when we really want to hit 5 mana to start the self-assembler chain. This has improvise, so it's kind of like another 4-drop. Lower that on the curve. Yeah, maybe one of the goggles, maybe the thriving turtle, maybe the glint nest crane. But we've got what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 artifacts? Seems like a solid count for glint nest crane. Not perfect, but close. I could get real lazy and call it a 41 card special, just because I'm too excited. I can't kill any of my babies here. They're all too beautiful. I guess we don't actually have a bunch of 3-power creatures to crew a Beaumont Bazaar Barge, so we're going to have to do weird things where we stack up, crewing this with like a 2-1 and a 1-1 servo, but we have a lot of servo production towards crewing this, with 3 Aether Swoopers and 2 Aether Chasers. But yeah, crew 3 is actually kind of difficult for this deck with a lot of 1 and 2 power creatures, but if our board state's wide enough, we just crew it with 2 different creatures to get it going. It might be the cut, though, out of everything, when you look at it that way. It's still a really good card in a vacuum, but maybe not here. Maybe not. Maybe instead of getting that vehicle card advantage, we're just all in on the self-assembler card advantage at the top. Sure. I have no idea if this is correct. Maybe we're supposed to just cut a Drake or something. They're a little filler, but I like having more evasive threats. You know what? Sure, we'll cut one of the Drakes. This is kind of low on creatures. No, it's not. Still 16 creatures? Yeah, no, that's fine. Never mind. 16 creatures and 2 vehicles is perfectly reasonable. Sure, we'll do that. We'll cut one of the Drakes. And then we'll call it a deck here. Here's a look at our final deck list for today, and it's a very sweet one. There's no bomb rares here. There's nothing super insane in terms of individual card quality, but there's just so many premium commons here and a lot of great synergy. We have 3 Aether Swoopers and 2 Aether Chasers, some of the best commons in the format. They hit the ground running nice and early in the game. They both have abilities that make them hard to block. First Strike making it so usually you'll just be able to eat your opponent's early game blockers if they try to block your Aether Chaser. And Flying, of course, jumping over the opponent's blockers there, so that you can get your first attack off with these and make them really good cards for the mana cost. A 2-1 First Strike plus a 1-1, a 1-2 Flyer plus a 1-1, and so on if you get other energy-producing cards like Thriving Turtles, Aether Torch Renegades, Shipwreck Morays, and all of that kind of stuff. You just get more energy, dump out more servos if you want, or use the energy from these Aether cards towards your other cards like Aether Torch Renegade, if you have better targets for the Renegade than you have for just spitting servos out. Just a lot of flexibility when you've got a ton of different ways to produce and use energy. So that is a lot of the really, really nice synergy going on in the deck, and a lot of the nice, just high quality commons in the deck. But we've also got a stack of self-assemblers, so we will have a relentless onslaught of 4/4s in the late game, pretty much every game, because as soon as we've drawn a single self-assembler, we know we can loop into hitting every single other copy. And in any top deck war ever, we're almost guaranteed to win, because we know that at the minimum, we're casting a 4/4 every turn for like 5 turns in a row. So really excellent late game here as well, all off of just the power of our commons, but we've got a couple sweet uncommons as well, the main one being the Maverick Thopterist here, just providing a lot of stats for its mana cost, giving you some nice flying Thopters to chip in for some extra damage. So not only do we have all that great stuff going on in the creature base, but we've got solid interaction, 2 burn spells for removal, and a bounce spell from Leave in the Dust, and some decent vehicles that we can crew with all of our leftover servo tokens so that they stay relevant throughout the game. So really solid deck here, super excited to see how it plays out, so without further ado, let's head into the gameplay. Here we are on the draw for game 1. Rough mana in the opener, not having the red source for a 2 or 3 drop. We've got 8 red sources in the deck, we're on a 9-8 split here. We have 2 draw steps to hit a red source. I've got the excellent late game no matter what with Self-Assembler, and I have a Leave in the Dust to slow our opponent down a little bit. It's a bit risky, but I'm still going to keep it here. Maybe with so many self-assemblers at the top end, I should just take mulligans pretty aggressively because we know we have so many ways to go up in card advantage when I've got 5 self-assemblers. Yeah, that's probably correct in the future. I should mulligan pretty aggressively with this deck because we have a 5-for-1 in here on turn 5 almost every game. And that makes up for just about any number of mulligans if we can make it to turn 5. Okay, not an excellent start here, still not finding that red source, but at least we did hit a 2-drop and a 3-drop to cast. We just need to hit any land to get to the Leave in the Dust, though. But it looks like our opponent kept a similar hand. They're stuck on mono blue on turn 3, playing a bunch of goggles with nothing to put them on. Oh, both of us are getting some awkward mana issues, but at least we drew into some creatures to actually start this game off. But there they go. They have found their secondary color before us. They are on blue-green. And an Unbridled Growth means they have a mana of any color from this, and Rogue Refiner can help them get out of this a lot. A 3-2 that also draws them a card for a good 2-for-1, and it gives them 2 energy, so it's almost a 3-for-1 depending on how useful that energy is to our opponent. Alright, Mountain here is an excellent, excellent draw. Now we can drop the Aether Chaser, but that'd be my only card for the turn. I think I'd rather just play a 4-drop and be mana efficient. I want to play something that provides us with energy so we can get more servos. Yeah, let's just go wild. Keep hitting them in the sky, get another servo out of the Aether Swooper. Keep that damage rolling in here. There's a Wild Wanderer from our opponent. They really have whatever mana they want. Mana of any color from the Unbridled Growth, and now whatever basic land they want from the Wild Wanderer. So if they have some really, really powerful spells that they're splashing in, we could maybe try to get back into this game. Have to be something like a Yahenni's Expertise off of the double black that they have available. That would be just a full-on board wipe. That could help get them back in. But again, with a self-assembler coming up, I don't even think we'd be in a losing position if they got a full-on board wipe at this point. I think we'd still be fine. I think we do this, and then we don't make a servo. We keep the energy for the Shipwreck Morays +2/-2s, so we can make the Moray kill their stuff if we want to. If they don't block, we can also just hit them for 4 with the Moray. Or if we don't want to trade Moray into one of these, we can just not spend any on it. Okay. We're going to go for the double block, which means I think it's pretty profitable to just kill both of these, rather than spending any removal, because 4 power is enough to kill both. Cool. Now, I guess we're just playing the Renegade for a bunch more energy again. Can also help clear the board a little bit, and it's our most expensive creature to cast this turn since we don't have the 5th land for the self-assembler yet. We could also just pass the turn. Like, we've got 3 very solid instants to hold up to deal with whatever they cast to try to block with. But I figure we can just cast one of these during main phase 1 to get stuff out of the way anyway. Just holding for one of the instants would play around the board wipe a little better, but again, I'm not really scared of a board wipe, because if they do so, as soon as we hit land 5, we're still good. Thanks to self-assembler. Fresh board state of 5 4/4s coming right up. So Confiscation Coup is going to steal our Hinterland Drake. Try to use that to block. But it is still tapped for now, so we hit for 4. Hungry Flames means we hit them for 2 more damage, hitting for 6. Not quite lethal. This requires 8 energy to shoot them in the face for 6, so we're not there. So let's just attack with everybody and make another servo, and then cast a self-assembler. Start that chain. And then next turn it should be incredibly likely that we just attack with everybody and also Hungry Flames them to death. Gearseeker Serpent is big, but that's fine. They're still dead to the Hungry Flames. Equip the goggles to the Drake, and now we can't kill the Drake with the Hungry Flames, but we can still kill them with it, so send on in. Block the 2 biggest creatures, take 4 damage, and then take 2 more from Hungry Flames, and that is gonna be game. Doesn't matter what creature we target there, but I'm targeting the Drake because it's less likely that they could somehow kill it in response to make the Hungry Flames not resolve. But I guess since Hungry Flames technically has 2 targets, even if the creature I target vanishes or gets hexproof, it would still resolve, dealing 2 to them. Yeah, I guess it didn't matter there. Either way, incredible stuff from our deck. Awkward start to that game from both players. But we drew pretty well, hitting multiple creatures right off the bat to get a good amount of damage in before they could draw into the mana they needed. Although I guess their keep was more bold because they looked like a 3 or 4 color deck that kept a monocolored hand. Alright, here we are on the play for game number 2. We've got the Swoop Diddy Whoop coming on in turn 2. And we've got the Self-Assembler at the top end. We're likely to have one of these in basically every opening hand when we have 5 copies. And we're definitely going to draw multiple Self-Assemblers sometimes, which is always a slight bummer. But that's to be expected when you have 5 copies in your deck. But yeah, every Self-Assembler that we draw into is one less that we get to tutor out, so we lose out on one little bit of card advantage every time we draw a duplicate. Still haven't drawn a duplicate yet, so far so good. Opponent is going for the outrace with Skyskiff and Spireside Infiltrator. And I am a genius at jinxing myself. I'm very, very good at it. Would I rather have a 1/4 turtle or another servo here? Just a +1/+1 counter on this, or servo. I think I'm going to go wide here and get another servo and just hold the turtle up. It's leaving the dust the Infiltrator. They have to spend their next turn just recasting it to recrew the skiff. And then turn 5 onward, we're just going to keep playing infinite Self-Assemblers until the game's over. It's the game plan. Implement of Malice. That probably doesn't matter to us. Makes us discard 1 card. I guess we discard a Hinterland Drake and we're moderately sad. Although, I could discard 1 Self-Assembler. That way this turn I play Hinterland Drake and Aether Chaser. Get max damage. Yeah, let's go for damage here. Let's go Drake plus Aether Chaser. Discard 1 Self-Assembler because we can still get 4 off of the other one. And max damage means buffing the turtle this turn, so that it pokes for 1 as well, instead of getting another servo. I think the board's plenty wide now. Okay, here comes Implement of Malice. Unless they play a second Implement of Malice, this should be fine. If they play a second, I'll be pretty sad. Chandra's Revolution. Ooh, now we need to top deck a land to play this Self-Assembler. I am very surprised they're still going in. I guess it gives them the servo to crew the Skyskiff and still hold up a blocker, and the Skyskiff blocks Aether Chaser without dying, so I guess we just Aether Chaser for Aether Chaser here. Could also take the damage because I can get a Self-Assembler to block it later. If I attack with everybody, Skyskiff eats our Aether Swooper and they take 3, go to 10. Probably not super worth it. Let's just start the Self-Assembler chain. And then just start attacking with a Self-Assembler every turn. Just Spireside Infiltrator, which can get some major pings with the Skyskiff. There's a Pillar Bug for a Lifelinker. Not a super beefy one, but beefy enough they can double block a self-assembler and only lose one creature, which isn't great. Inventor's Goggles. It's too expensive to slap it onto my self-assembler and still cast another one this turn. Yeah, we're going to cast another self-assembler and the goggles this turn then, which means we do this. So I might as well do this too, because I'm going to have a 4/4 up on blocks. Yeah, they could double block and kill a thriving turtle, but if they do that, then they're not killing the self-assembler. And we're just getting that 4 damage in, which feels super worth it. Okay, cool. Kill the infiltrator, because that can keep pinging us with the sky skiff. Killing the pillar bug would also be definitely an argument. Get rid of their lifelink. They could have crewed sky skiff, even though it was tapped there to poke us for 1 more damage with the infiltrator. So we get 1 extra point of life here, which is nice. Foundry Hornet, just a 2/3 flyer. So now we want to draw basics that I can equip the goggles to the swooper, so I just stop taking damage, and then we just keep playing 4/4s and attacking with 4/4s, and went off that. If we don't hit the land, I think I am going to take another hit in the sky. I go down to 7. I do still have 1 more self-assembler in the deck, right? Yes, I do. So I only trade self-assembler into one of the 2 creatures again. If I equip it with the goggles, then I can have it at no risk of dying, and I could just move the goggles to the Aether Swooper post-combat for blocks. So I guess we take the turn off of playing this self-assembler. Only 1 out of 23 cards left in the deck is another self-assembler, so we're probably not at risk of drawing it and losing out on the card advantage. Ooh, that's pretty beautiful. I think we take those. Put them down to 6. Uh-oh. Removal for our flyer would be real bad. Yeah, Chandra's Pyrohelix. That is quite bad for us. So here's Aether Chaser. Do we attach the goggles to it? I mean, they're probably attacking with Hornet plus Skiff. I think we do. Because Assembler's already like good enough at attacking into their non-flying creatures. But the Aether Chaser is not without the goggles. Okay, if they just draw land here, their current board state is not good enough to just keep hitting me for 4 in the sky every turn, or they just do not have good enough blocks. So yeah, they're not going to attack at all. We hit the land to be able to play the Assembler and move the goggles if we need to. Which, since they didn't attack, I kind of need to move the goggles, but even a 5/6 self-assembler can get triple blocked and I only kill 1 of the 3 creatures. So I guess a single self-assembler kills 1 of the 3 blockers, whether or not it has goggles on it, so we actually don't move the goggles, we just send in. Kill the flyers. They can buy some time with lifelink, just as long as they can't randomly kill us with evasive threats, we'll be fine. Because I have 2 more 4/4s to play, which is just ridiculous. Now I will put the goggles on this self-assembler because now they're down to just 2 2/3s to block with, which cannot double block and kill a self-assembler, and there is the concession from our opponent. Our opponent, like, did surprisingly well for how far behind they were in card advantage just by virtue of me playing a bunch of assemblers. I was actually kind of scared the whole time. I mean, we ended the game at 11, but they had enough time and enough flyers to have hit us for like 8 more damage that game, and just barely still be around thanks to like lifelink on Pillar Bug or something. So I was still concerned, but That self-assembler loop just putting in a ton of work. And we are now 2-0 heading into game 3. Here we are for game 3. Another monocolored hand, which is definitely awkward, but it's absolutely a keep when we get to start with a turn 2 Aether Swooper, and we've got a Sky Skiff to play, if nothing else. The Sky Skiff, of course, can get crewed by the servo token that the Swooper provides. Now we hit a Glint Nest Crane. I think I'm still starting with Swooper. Playing against a black-white deck here. Ooh, Yahenni as the start from our opponent is very scary. 2/2 haste that keeps getting bigger as our creatures die. They can sack another creature to give it indestructible. Alright, perfectly timed mountain draw. We do love to see that. Don't have any 3-drops here, it's just a bunch of 2-mana stuff to do. I guess I cast the Aether Chaser, and unless they play another creature, they can't really attack into it on board. I guess I could play around a Subtle Strike and play another 2 toughness card. If they have a Subtle Strike, then they can give this -1/-1, put a counter on Yahenni, and just jam, which would be pretty gross. And that is one of the best black combat tricks in this format. Maybe we Glint Nest Crane instead then. Or just play another Swoopity Doop. I'll play a Crane, that's the best toughness for blocking here. Get another Self-Assembler, that's one less to be able to tutor for, but is still a draw off of the Glint Nest Crane. Glentsleeve Siphoner, oh god, we're just against mono rares. All bombs all day over there. Okay, Glint Nest Crane was beefy enough to stop the attacks here. This is a 2/1 menace. It enters the battlefield or attacks. They get energy. They can spend 2 of it to draw a card and lose a life. Okay, so we're definitely getting another servo then. So we want to play another energy provider. Let's play another higher toughness one. And get another servo on blocks. Just clutter up this board and try to make it as hard as possible for their rares to get in. And do anything particularly scary. Just buy us the time to get to our 5 mana and start that self-assembler chain again. Revoke privileges the Glint Nest Crane. Attack with both of these. Subtle Strike makes this a 3/2 and kills one of our cards. We're still blocking with 2 toughness, so this beats Subtle Strike. If they have Rush of Vitality for +1/+0 lifelink indestructible, they still just win here. But I think we still go for it. Beat the Subtle Strike if that's what they have. Alright, or that works. Yahenni gets beefed up, but we have Leave in the Dust to get rid of all the counters. Could also Leave in the Dust our own Glint Nest Crane to recast it, get another artifact. Revoke does stop it from crewing, so we can't crew a Bizarre Barge if I play that right now. I think we have to Leave in the Dust Yahenni at this point. Get rid of those counters and get a little bit of breathing room, try to draw into the 5th land. I don't think there's a hexproof trick in white in this format, and there's basically never a hexproof trick in black, so I'm going to wait till their turn to Leave in the Dust, in case they spend any more mana in buffing up Yahenni in any way. And this also makes them recast Yahenni post-combat and not get any haste value. Alright, feels great, and we did hit the 5th mana. I think we just go for the Self-Assembler loop over the Thopterist right now. A 4/4 blocker feels better to me than a 2/2 and a couple 1/1s against Yahenni. Although, they could just have like a Revoke Privileges or something again, but that wouldn't be the worst, because then Yahenni wouldn't get any bigger. They still just hit me for 2 damage if they just pacify one of my creatures. How actually absurd is it that we got 5 self-assemblers and we could have had 6? I don't think the deck's really any better with 6 over 5, so I'm perfectly happy with the 5. I mean, once you have like 5 self-assemblers, that's already just like near overkill. A 7/5 that has to attack each combat, so we just block it with 2 4/4s, right? I guess they could have a trick or a removal spell here and that'd be bad, but whatever. The self-assemblers are a 4-for-1 this game. So if I get 2-for-1 in reverse, that's going to be fine. All things considered. Maybe I do attack with only 1 Aether Swooper to play around 1 sorcery speed removal spell. That way if they do blow up one of the self-assemblers, I can still double block the breaker with a 4/4 and a 1/2 to kill it. So yeah, I'll play around like a second Revoke Privileges for another sorcery speed removal spell. Poke them for 1 less damage this turn. Conviction. Okay, well that's not good. Actually, that's not terrible though. They have to have the combat trick as well, so show me the combat trick as well. Here comes the Subtle Strike, since we played around it earlier. No? We get the kill? Well, that's basically... Never mind. I was going to say that's exactly what would happen if they didn't play Conviction, but they actually didn't have enough power. No, we drew the last self-assembler, I think? Yeah, we did. So these are no longer card draw. Got a 4/4 Yeheni down there. At this point... it only gives indestructible if they sack another creature, so playing a 4/4 and trying to block it might not be unreasonable. Need another creature to save it. Sure, I'm still just going to do that. I was going to say at this point it might be better to Thopterist than start chumping with the... I guess the 2/2 body of the Thopterist, but let's just play the Self-Assembler. I mean, at this point it's just funny. So we might as well. You gotta account for humor in your plays. Okay, show me the trick. If this is an instant speed removal spell, that'd be really good for them. Oh yeah, blow up a swooper, make Yeheni a 5/5? Sure. Still think I'm in a pretty good spot. But now we are 100% on the Thopterist plan. Thanks to Improvise, we need to play Skyskiff and then Thopterist. I mean, we don't need to, but it is better to do that. Now we're chumping Yeheni with a 2/2 and racing them with these flyers. And we just keep dumping a bunch of stuff on the board to chump block Yeheni with. Although at 16, I can take a hit this turn. Go to 10. If I play Aether Chaser and Bizarre Barge, like we are threatening large blocks against Yeheni, it is possible to threaten a double or triple block to go for trades. Another Barricade Breaker. Their deck is beef. Alright. Yep. 7 mana. I can play Assembler and Chaser or Bizarre Barge and Chaser. I like Bizarre Barge Chaser because it gives me the energy to get another, not Thopter, another Servo as well. I probably should have played Bizarre Barge first, because I could have drawn into something that I'd want to play more than Aether Chaser. Like my 3 damage burn spell. Or Hinterland Drake, that might have been a better play than Aether Chaser here. Okay, so... Crew with Aether Chaser. I think that's a yes. 10 life, though. I think I have to hold a 1/1 back. So they're at 13. They're taking 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be 3 turns to kill them, however we play. So let's play it a little safer and hold up 2 blockers. Oh yeah, I am getting the servos. This is holding up 3 blockers. But that means I have enough to crew the Bizarre Barge to trade the Bizarre Barge into the Barricade Breaker and still chump block Yeheni. So this does feel Correct. Right, I crew with this and the servo, or this and the Thopter to crew Bazaar Barge, and then I chump block Yahenni with the servo. This way, by holding up 3 creatures. Okay, sort of stumbled into that one, but I think this is the correct number of blockers at least, if not just the correct blockers to hold up here. Okay, and we're definitely crewing the Bazaar Barge with the Thopter, because we'd rather chump with the ground troop than the flyer. Okay. Yahenni's getting even beefier. If they draw the +1/+0 lifelink indestructible trick, they have so much more time to find the kill with Yahenni, because they will gain so much life off that now. Yahenni has just been nasty. There's a Restoration Gearsmith. Pick up a artifact or creature. Could be some good stuff at this point. Siphoner or Barricade Breaker? Siphoner it is. Okay, drawn to a Thriving Turtle, so I can get another servo this turn if I want it. They are at 9 life. They're definitely dead in 2 swings. Let's just play a bunch of blockers, right? Rather than a few big ones. So with 7 mana, the best way to do that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Drake plus Chaser plus Turtle. And we get to make a servo this turn. Yep, that's where I'm at. Don't get to make 2 servos because the Aether Chaser can't attack into a 3/3, but the Aether Swooper gets to attack in and make 1 servo here. What am I crewing Skyskiff with? One of the Aether Chasers, I believe. Because we crew it with whatever we don't want to block with, and I'm fine jumping with a 2/2 or a 1/1 flyer. They do have a flyer of their own, but I've got a Hinterland Drake if they randomly try to kill me with that, and it's only a 2/1, so they're probably not trying to kill me with that. So we do this. And create a servo. They trade into the Aether Swooper and take 4. They're very dead next turn, as long as we can survive. And they don't draw a lifelink spell. If they have the lifelink combat trick on the Yahenni, that's going to be game-changingly huge. I don't think we'd instantly lose, but they would actually have a pretty firm shot at turning things around. That's all we do, right? Because we're just trying to kill them on the crackback. Don't think we block the Gearsmith at all. Just leave as many creatures to attack with on the crackback as possible. There's a Revoke Privileges on the Hinterland Drake. Not going to be enough to survive. There's a Glint Sleeve Siphoner, only 2 mana up. They're at 5 life. Hidden Stockpiles the play, that's 2 blockers. Because they get a servo off of that. So they block both my Aether Chasers. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they're dead. They are super dead. Especially if I crew the Skyskiff with a summoning sick creature to attack with everybody else. So just in case I'm really bad at math, we'll do this as safe as possible. Attack with absolutely everybody for the maximum amount of damage. Which would mean to use the Thriving Turtle over any of the Aether Chasers. Alright, there is the concession. We were not that bad at math, and we are now still undefeated with an incredible run with this incredible deck so far. Our opponents have been some fierce competition. They have been putting up a fight against just incredible card advantage plays from the gigantic chains of 5-mana 4/4s and tons of Aether cards just spitting servos all over the board. Everything just functioning like a well-oiled machine with this deck that just spews endless amounts of card advantage. We are 3-0 heading into game number 4. Here we are now for game number 4 with an excellent start. Glint Nest Crane will probably hit one of the 5 self-assemblers to have an excellent finish to the game as well. This hand just looks like it's got it all, really. We've got our curve of threats, we've got interaction, we've got the end game from the Glint Nest. Alright. Inventor's Goggles doesn't really fit into the curve here. I suppose if we don't hit our 4th land next turn, we can play Crane plus Goggles, and that'd be a way to do it. Eddy Trailhawk. Just a 1/2 flying blocker. It doesn't help the most on blocks, but it lets them get attacks in. Sending other things into the sky. Alright, so we did not hit land 4, so I can play Crane plus Goggles or Skiff plus Goggles. I guess since I don't have the mana to play a 5-drop next turn anyway, I don't really want to Crane into anything, so we'll go Goggles plus Skiff. I think that's fine. Could also just Goggles up the Swooper. But I want to play the Sky Skiff, I think. Do they have the 1-mana trick? I think it's +1/+2 if they do. It's holding for something here, and they have no 1-mana abilities on board. So they have the 1-mana +1/+2 or return a creature to their hand trick. I'll keep that in mind. It's called Alley Evasion, I think. It's the white common combat trick for 1. There might be a rarer trick that I don't remember, but that's the one at common, so it's the most likely thing they're holding for. Audacious Infiltrator. Alright, they're tapped out, so I don't even have to worry about it. Okay, that is also not land 4. We can Hungry Flames one of the flyers so that we can keep chipping in, but a 2/3 flyer is already good enough to keep chipping in against 2 1/2s. They still can't kill them, so... yeah, let's giff it up. Still beating in. Don't foresee myself really wanting to Hungry Flames any of these creatures at this point, so we will cast the Glint Nest Crane and get that out of the way now. Putting 3 lands on the bottom's a little sad, but we did find the self-assembler as we imagined we would. For when we make it to 5 mana. Send in the whole team. We are pretty sure they have the +1/+2 trick in their hand. I think our best block around that is to throw the 1/3 at the 1/1 and the 1/2 at the 3/1, because no matter what I block the 3/1 with, they get to trade Alley Evasion for the Swooper. But if I block the 1/1 with a 1/3, they can't trade the Alley Evasion into that. Yeah, this is fine. If we trade a combat trick for Swooper, that's a-okay. Ooh, if they also have Inspired Charge, that is less fine. But also not terrible for us since we stopped enough damage to not just die here. Okay, certainly not good. Oh boy. We do really need mana. Yeah, if they've got like a whole stack of Inspired Chargers, we could just die. If we kill the Infiltrator, they're only threatening to hit us for 3 a turn without more Inspired Charges. So we win that race. I guess. I mean, I could also play Turtle plus put a Goggles on something instead. That's fine as well. We'll just go for the blockers for now, I guess. The turtle plus goggles. This turtle can see so far. And it's also a 1/5 to block the 3/1. Propeller Pioneer, okay, that is not another inspired charge yet. If they fabricate and choose the servo, I'm gonna be real scared. Okay, that is definitely threatening another inspired charge. Oh yeah, they've got double Eddy Trailhawk. They can just send the Infiltrator into the sky anyway. Oh boy. Alright, we need to just get full on blocks at this point. No more attacks now that they've got 2 more creatures down with Pioneer plus Servo. I think our attack last turn was probably fine, but at this point we absolutely have to stop attacking. And just hold up our instants. Thank goodness. Do find a land. I don't think I can just play a Moray and pass. I need to hold up Hungry Flames or leave in the dust. Dawn Feather Eagle is spectacular on this board. Okay, all of our interactions still works after this ability resolves, unless I wanted to specifically Hungry Flames the Eagle right now, but I need to kill something that's currently attacking me. I'm gonna kill a Servo here, and then Hungry Flames the Eagle during our turn. And they're down to 2 Eddy Trailhawks and 1 Servo. Seems stable enough. Guess I'm out of flyers for the Eddy Trails though, and that is a problem. Yeah, we're probably just gonna die here. I think we just stumbled on mana too long. If I played slightly more defensively, maybe. No point in attacking with anything with less than 2 power here. So we attack like that, move the goggles. No more eagles, no more inspired charges, please. I mean, we're still dead anyway. There's the alley evasion that we were thinking about early. Alright. Pretty rough mana draws there for sure, but we also could have played it more defensively. 3-1 it is, heading into game number 5. Here we are for game number 5 with an excellent opening hand. We've got both of the Aether cards, unfortunately on the draw, but cannot control that. It's an Aether Swooper with the goggles on it on the play. That is a nasty start from our opponent. Guess I play my Aether Chaser first, and then I goggle up the Swooper of my own, so that we've got a 2/4 to block their 2/4 in the sky. The servo that this produces just doesn't matter. Another Aether Chaser, straight up mirror match here. They do get to move the goggles for free, so now our Aether Chaser doesn't get to attack in. It's like the exact same hand from each player, so this just feels like getting demolished by the play-draw differential. Yeah. Welding sparks to clear out our 2-4. Send in with the whole team. We've got no blocks. Down to 14. Sky Skiff plus Swooper now. Because if I just play the Bizarre Barge, we cannot crew that thing. At least they left us a decent attack for our Aether Chaser since it can't block well anyway. This gives me the servo I need to crew the Sky Skiff. And we finally stopped the onslaught. Does this Aether Swooper get to remain and hold off that Aether Chaser? That looks like a no to me. Inventor Goggles onto the Aether Chaser, and it's a 4/4 first striker attacking in. I don't know the Swooper, though. So they're going on the defense? Alright. It's cool with me. Ooh, that's a great card. They're probably going to go for a double block at some point, so we want to hold off till we're getting into combat more than just trying to use this as a 1-for-1 right now. I think we can just drop the Bizarre Barge and pass. For now. Another Inventor's Goggles is not terrible. This really is the exact mirror match. We've both drawn the Welding Sparks, we've both drawn 2 Inventor's Goggles, we've both drawn Swooper and Chaser. Wait till they play their Bizarre Barge. Reckless Fireweaver. Alright, we're not running that card. We've broken the mirror. Alright, pass the turn. I am 1 mana off from playing and equipping the goggles, but also using Welding Sparks. I'm also a mana off from playing Renegade and using the Sparks. I have no idea what I'm doing here. Guess I'll just play a Renegade into goggles and pass. Get that mana investment all out of the way. Again, I don't think we really have attacks until we're actively holding up Welding Sparks and sending in like a 5/5 or something, while still having decent blocks up. This is a just confusing nightmare of a board state with all the equipment sitting around and all the creatures everywhere. Dukara Peafowl, 2/4 flyer. It's a big one. Especially with double goggles over there. So now I've got Renegade's ability at instant speed as well, to tack on to any extra damage I need. So I'm holding so much less when it comes to blockers up if I send in the Bizarre Barge. I was considering sending it in here, but we probably actually do have to hold up a bunch of blocks. Just go beefy Swooper. Pass. I was gonna say this Aether Swooper should be pretty hard to kill by removal, but if they have another Welding Sparks, they have more than enough artifacts to deal like 7 damage now. So even with double goggles, with the the literal 4 eyes of goggles, it can die to the Welding Sparks. Well, that's concerning. What are they attacking with both here? This is not as good on board as it looks for them. Hopefully they just don't realize what I have. And this is not them trying to do a trick, but if it is them trying to do a trick, I have the welding sparks. Oh, I should have crewed Sky Skiff. I totally forgot. We both forgot. They potentially forgot Aether Torch Renegade, but I forgot Sky Skiff. I absolutely should have activated Sky Skiff with my servo and blocked the swooper as well. Even though it wouldn't kill it, it would stop the damage. If the Renegade ability resolves, I think all in all this is still better for me than it is for them. Pyro Helix? 1 to my 2-1 and my 1-1? Sure. Yeah, so I guess if I had done the Sky Skiff thing, they were planning on killing it with this Pyro Helix. Killing my Sky Skiff and my Aether Chasers, that actually played out better than if I had blocked, which is surprising. Oh, I've got 5 self-assemblers in here. Where are they at? I need their assistance. Yeah, I need creatures. Bad. Filigree Familiar. Ping me for 1, gain them some life, and that'll draw them a card when it dies. Hopefully they're about out of cards as well, but they just played that land, so they've been missing lands several turns, so it's all spells. This last card in their hand is just another spell. It's too much action. I might have to clear out some of their 1/1s just to make it less likely for them to be able to go wide and kill me. Spend all our energy into killing their 1/1s instead of making our own at this point. Because we're never going to be in a position to declare an attack and make our own. Well, that'll make our own. So improvise with the equipments, since it doesn't matter if they're tapped. But the vehicles, it does matter, so just the equipments. Could move the goggles, but we're not going to. That was a phenomenal draw. That's basically exactly what I needed. I'm just sitting here like, well, I need creatures, and there you go. There you have them. Now we can send in the Bazaar Barge holding up Renegade plus Sparks to start clearing out their board. They probably just trump with Familiar, draw their card here for now. But we gotta get some kind of action going. If we can't find our self-assemblers, then we'll do it ourselves. With the Bazaar Barge. It is a block with Filigree Familiar, so they just draw their card out of that. Fair. Spireside Infiltrator. Shoots us for damage every time it becomes tapped, and it's a 3/2. And a land, Spire Bluff Canal from our opponent. I believe I am still lowering the size of their board with this Renegade, but I will keep the last 2 energy. Are they going to combat trick to save a 1/1? Oh, they have another Pyro Helix? That's gross. Okay. That's pretty good. And right back at it to doing nothing. Yep. It's a top deck war that we're currently losing. We're 2 lands ahead of them. So they've had a couple extra spells than us so far. Stop it. No more spells. No spells allowed, opponent. Goodbye, Aether Torch Renegade. Maverick Thopterist. Okay. Guess that's the bigger one for crewing stuff. I did not expect that one. Okay, at this point, we have to just cash in the welding sparks, because they have no flyers left if I kill the swooper. But, like, if I attack with my swooper, my blockers are a 1-2 and a 1-1 servo. They can double suit up the Aether Chaser, that'd be a 4 power first striker, but I can have a 5 toughness servo, so I guess, yeah. I guess we can't rely on drawing spells here. We just do the best we can with what we have. Which is this, and then just keep moving the goggles back and forth. They have no good attacks because they're essentially attacking into a 2-3 flyer and a 5-5 because I can just crew both vehicles. They hit a spell again, I think. Maybe not. Maybe they're just thinking how to use the goggles. There's no way for them to use them and get an attack in. Well, they can actually buff the Infiltrator up to 5 power. And a whole bunch of toughness, but I think we can still block and only lose one creature. We just lose the Bazaar Barge to get the Infiltrator out of here. Because, yeah, it's going to be 6 toughness, so we can double block with anything, and they only kill the Bazaar Barge. Buff up the Fire Weaver. Interesting. Okay, so just for blocks, basically, it looks like. Oh my god, that is a great draw. The odds of having one of our 5 self-assemblers in the top 5 at this point are super high, because it's 5 out of those 20 cards. Come on. I guess it's top 4. Off Glint Nest Crane. There we go! GG! Alright, we win now. We hit the self-assembler loop. I guess I could always die to something random. Why can't I? There we go. Since I keep clicking, it's not letting me do anything with my goggles. But there we go. I am probably in a safe enough position to also send in the Sky Skiff, but I don't want to throw this game in the trash because I didn't play safe enough. If we play safe enough, like, we're playing a self-assembler every turn from now on, and anything we top deck, we've got enough mana for it. So if we play it safe, I think we're pretty locked in. Unless they hit something that makes like 1,000,000 artifact tokens for the Reckless Fireweaver. But there's only servos and thopters in this format. Okay, that's horrifying. 5/7 Weldfast Wingsmith could be a 5/7 flyer. I've got the chumper for it, but still terrifying. I guess if they can make an artifact at instant speed, they can also block and kill the swooper that we're trying to attack with, which would also not be good. That's a good draw. I've got the mana to do self-assembler and still hold that up. You'll have to see it. I don't think there's many instant speed artifacts in this format, so I'm jamming. And I'm keeping the Glint Nest as the chumper. Are they still only on 6 lands here? Ooh, my god, that's a gigantic Wingsmith. That is 6/9 now? Nice. I guess if they have their own Hungry Flames, we take exact lethal here. Because they kill our crane and shoot us for 2. They do not have their own Hungry Flames. We get the chump. It's just a land. Oh my god. It's just a land. They're at 11. They move that to the Infiltrator. I can kill it in response. They have 2 blockers on the ground. They block Self-Assembler, Self-Assembler. They're at 9 after Hungry Flames resolve, so they go block, block. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This crew's that. So they actually block this and that. And take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They die. I think this is lethal. I need to make sure I'm doing the math right, but I'm pretty sure this is lethal. When they just block a 5, 5, and a 4, 4, take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Another swoop diddy whoop for good measure. So I've still got a chump blocker if they somehow don't die. Okay, so we are crewing with the Summoning 6 Self-Assembler, crewing with the Summoning 6 Swooper, attacking with everybody, and because we got the energy, we get a servo. Yeah, alright. Whew. Long game there. That started behind because it was basically, we had the same hand, but they were on the play, so we were on the back foot there under the pressure from the start. But things stabilized, ended up in just a long, drawn-out top deck war. We hit a good chunk more lands than our opponents, so stayed behind for a little while. But as soon as we found that Self-Assembler, it was like, alright, here we go. Such a great endgame card, and we are now 4-1, heading into game number 6. Alright, here we are, game 6 on the play, with a beautifully aggressive hand. Get in with a 1/4 turtle. Let's go. Double swooper now? Let's really go. Do I make my turtle a 2/5 or do I get more servos? I think we always want more servos over more counters on the turtle. After we get 1 counter on the turtle, we're good. Because then the turtle's big enough to crew Sky Skiff, and it's big enough to trip in for A damage at least. But I think getting more servos is probably generally better most of the time than getting more +1/+1 counters for this deck. Okay, Eddy Trailhawk's a little annoying, but it doesn't kill anything on blocks, so we just send in. I guess it can block the servos all day, so maybe we do just get more counters on the turtle. I still want the first servo. The first servo crews the skiff. Lets everything else do its thing. I probably should have just played Swooper pre-combat and used both abilities actually this turn. But this way around we get to play Skiff instead and have the blocker up for Hawk if they want to try to reverse the aggro. They probably don't, but it is an option. Now the Skiff is not going to be summoning sick next turn. Gujar Seed Sculptor, probably buffing the Eddy Trailhawk to make it a 2/3 flyer. Yep, Leaving the Dust, starting to look a little better. Bouncing something with a counter on it's always nice. Ooh, speaking of things that are nice, that Shipwreck Moray here for a bunch of energy. So I can't attack in with Aether Swooper till we deal with the Hawk. I can send in the turtle and make it a 2/5. Or I can just play the Moray and pass. I think we make a 2/5 turtle and send in a Sky Skiff as well, and one of the two gets in or kills something. Cool. Pima Outrider, beefy trampler that can give them a servo, or it could just be a 4/4. It is also an artificer, so it works great with the goggles. Now it's just a 4/5 already, even if they make the servo off of it and don't get the +1/+1 counter. Well, at least Turtle as a 2/5 is a great blocker for the Outrider, as is the Moray. But now we're stuck just doing things in the sky here. We have drawn our first red spell with no red source. Sadness on the stack. Yeah, looks like it's top deck war time. We're chilling and waiting for red sources and self-assemblers. Yeah, I'm gonna cast the super. I'm not gonna hold up Leave in the Dust until I've slammed everything else out, I think. But now we're gonna stare at each other for a while. Thriving Rhino. Got 4 energy towards the Rhino, which is pretty good, but the Leave in the Dust should be pretty good against it. Time to hang out for a long time. Unless I really want to Leave in the Dust the Eddy Trailhawk to hit them for 4 in the sky. 1 time, and then start hitting them for 2 in the sky every turn. I think I'd rather save the Leave in the Dust to get some counters off some stuff later, potentially. Dawn Feather Eagle. Yep, that's a completely disgusting magic card. Am I just taking 5? Be pretty chill. Nope, we're taking more. Guess I could Leave in the Dust their goggles? Maybe? That's a thing we want to do. If I Leave in the Dust the goggles, the Outrider's just a 4/4, and if I block with a 2/5 and a 2/3, they might try to kill the 2/5. The Eddy Trailhawk also only kills one of our creatures. It'll kill the Sky Skiff, but I think that's fine. So we do like this, see how they order. Hoping they put the turtle in front. They did put the turtle in front. So we can do this. And then I can Leave in the Dust the goggles, draw a card, and keep both these creatures. Find the red source for the Thopterist, which is a good one. There's an Aether Torch Renegade as well. Don't really have attacks into the Eagle. So we're just playing a Renegade and passing, I think. Yikes. Do have the mana to cast both of these. It's pretty good. Opponent still seems to be drawing all non-lands here, which is super bad. Yeah, another thriving rhino. There's the goggles. And another goggles. Alright, well. Could attack in with like a Hinterland Drake here and also shoot with Renegade to trade up into an Eagle. But that doesn't really accomplish much more than just blocking the Eagle. Yikes. Yep, that's also quite bad. They get to flicker a Dawnfeather Eagle or a Seed Sculptor. Both have solid enter the battlefield effects here. Actually, pretty surprised they went for the Seed Sculptor over the Eagle. I guess this way they get to attack with both Eagles. Or they're just gonna pass. Get a permanent buff. Yeah, that's fair. God dang it. There's just too much beefy flying stuff. We gotta draw our removal, our Hungry Flames, and our Welding Sparks. Yeah. Now the goggles on the Eagles make them impossible to kill on blocks. I've got 7 damage I can deal back to this thing, but that is not enough. Drop another 2/2. Move a goggles over for fun, I guess. I mean, it's something, but it's definitely not enough to break through or survive. Okay. I go to 1 if I don't block. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. This game's over. Regardless, I can kill one of these, but it's whatever. Two blockers, they've got 2 flyers. So technically not dead yet. Maybe if we killed the Eagle, since they tapped all their other flyers and we just kept as many flyers as possible, we could have cracked back for something, but it wouldn't have been lethal, and then we would have died. Because this would shoot them for 6, so it could have been 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage. We could have put them to 4 and then died. It was worth considering, at least, doing that math before I went for our blocks, but it would not have won us the game. It would have just lost the turn sooner in the end. It's still all action. God dang. We lost this war pretty bad. All right. 4 and 2 heading into game 7. Here we are now for game number 7. On the play with a turn 1 turtle and not too much follow through till we hit a bunch of mana. We're also on a mono-colored hand. I think, again, with the big 5-for-1s with the self-assemblers at the top end, we can actually mulligan pretty aggressively with this deck to where mono-colored hand, not too much early game action, just means mulligan here. Okay, this is a little better. Not much, still no good, like, 2-mana creature here. But now we can at least have both of our colors start a little slower, though. Playing against green-black. Ooh, Aether Torch Renegade is fantastic. Against that Emerald Bruiser. Clear out their 3-1. And that's only half of Aether Torch's Renegade's energy, so it can still shoot something else for 1 later. Send in the 3-1, no blocks. And tap out for the live fast. Alright, Aether Torch Renegade, let's go. I'm just going to do this while they're tapped out so they can't save it with a Subtle Strike or something to put a +1/+1 counter onto it. And now we've got the Self-Assembler chain starting next turn. And that'll be the plan. All the 4/4s in the universe. Fabricate trigger. If they make it a 4/4, we can't kill it. Okay, they didn't make it a 4/4. So I could do that in response to the Fabricate trigger to kill it, so they have to make a servo, I guess. Maybe that was fine. Because then the Renegade kills the servo. And I think that's worth it to just keep this board clear. Yeah, I probably should have just Hungry Flames in response to that Fabricate trigger. And here we go. Time to assemble all of our friends. Is a Riparian Tiger? That is a 4/4, which matches up very well for my endless stack of 4/4s. Obviously, I don't block it well because it can buff itself on attacks, but they are going to need to do some blocks here. Alright, Seed Sculptor's very good here, making that a 5/5 against our 4/4s. But if I play this Shipwreck Mori to get some energy, then the Renegade can go ahead and shoot the Tiger for 1 to get our self-assemblers to trade up. But also just kill them all Fist Squad, which is another very exciting use of our energy, so I think I'm just going to do that, especially because I have goggles now to make the self-assemblers 5/6s anyway. So yeah, let's get the energy here, I think. Right? Ping the 3/1 Menace and set up the goggles for later. Again, doing it while they're tapped out. Now I've got the goggles to slap onto a self-assembler next turn. Aether Torch Renegade has been nasty this game. Ridge Scale Tuskers are very, very good card. A 5/5 for 5 is already beefy for this format, and it puts a +1/+1 counter on every other creature you control, which is quite large. Alright, that 8/8 stat line's pretty good here. Means it will trade into 2 of our creatures if I go for any blocks, so I guess we gotta just take it. They've got the lifelink combat trick. Their best way to win this game. +1/+0 lifelink indestructible at any point is going to be backbreaking. Got the 7 mana now to equip the goggles to a self-assembler and cast another. So I believe that's where we're at. They've got something, some 2-mana instant. I am just praying that it is not the +1/+0 lifelink indestructible trick, because that would be gross. Do I play around it a little bit by not sending this assembler in? Because if I send this assembler in and they don't have the trick, then the block's there and we ping. I think I am going to only send this one in. And they're just going to take it. Okay, if they're just going to take it and go down to 7, I might want to go for the wider board state with the Thopterist. Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't know how on earth we beat the lifelink trick if they have it. So I will move the goggles to the blocker. Send in the Tiger. Make it 8 power. Probably got to play it safe and throw a Moray under it. It's just +1/+1 kills us. Now it's got to be like 2 combat tricks, because +3/+3 doesn't even get there when we've got 5 toughness under that. It has to be like 2 +3/+3 tricks here. It's got to be something wild. Maybe we're supposed to throw the Renegade under there too, just to be extra safe, but I definitely don't think we're supposed to put any of the good attackers under there. The 4/4s and all the 1/1s. Okay, we're still around. Thriving Rhino. Maybe like a subtle strike or something. If it's not the lifelink trick, it's +1/+1 counter on a creature and -1/-1 to another creature. I almost feel like I have to just stop attacking on the ground entirely. The only attack we could have here is putting a goggles onto a self-assembler and just sending 1/5/6 in, and even if they have nothing, that would just be block with a 5/5 and a 2/3, and I kill the 5/5. It's not even an excellent attack anyway. So I'm just going to hold up on defense, I think. I don't have the mana to move the goggles to a flyer and also bring them back to the Thopterist. But I think I still move the goggles over. Now they might subtle strike right now to shoot this flyer down. Nope. I don't like this at all. Green and black both in this format have all of the best combat tricks. There's just so much they could have here. Go to combat, send in the Tusker and the Tiger. So if it's Subtle Strike, that's a 9/9 trample. They make one of my creatures smaller. This is 10 power. So they could reduce this down to 9 power and I would still win the fight against their 9 toughness. And this also, they could reduce one of these and buff that to 6. They would actually win with Subtle Strike on this one. I guess because I have the Renegade, I only need to deal 8 to the 9/9. And this would deal 8 no matter what, and then that would also beat Subtle Strike. No, I'd still only win against Subtle Strike in one of these two combats, I think. I don't know, we just do this. It is what it is. Just can't, like, let anything through. If it's the +1/+0 lifelink indestructible, we were never going to win this game. Yeah. So it's whatever. They could have just gained 1,000,000 life at any point. Well, GG. So Renegade doesn't do anything now. Well, at least it sticks around. We still kill the Tusker. Yep. That all just resolves. More beef. Glint Nest Crane. I've got the mana to play that and the Self-Assembler, but I could also see if it draws me anything good. They are out of energy for this Tiger, which is a start. Bizarre Barge is not bad. Might be better than casting a Self-Assembler here. Play that and move the goggles around. Still just casting a Self-Assembler though. I've still got more in the deck. Yeah, I've got one more. Okay. Let's see what they got. Another Bizarre Barge? That is really good value. The double up 2-for-1 5/5 vehicles. It's an Aether Poisoner for a Death Toucher on blocks, but we're just attacking in the sky anyway. More importantly, that's just the energy they need to make the Tiger a freaking 8/8 again. God dang it. And they make the Tiger an 8/8 and they have another creature to crew the 5/5. I don't even know if we can survive this attack. Yikes. Okay, I have to block at least 3 of Riparian Tiger's damage to not die. And then I get trampled for 5 there. And I have to block everybody else. So we block the places where I don't lose creatures, like this. Well, there's only one place I don't lose creatures. So I get trampled over for 5 and I go to 1. But then I have 4, 5, 6, 7 power on the board. That's not enough to kill them. Is there any way to have enough power on board to kill them? I'm pretty sure this is the best block we can do. I don't think there's anything else I can do about this. Yeah, we can't kill them on the crackback. And then we just die to Tiger next turn. Yeah, that's all we got. Kill the Death Toucher, the Thriving Rhino. And they still have another trick? Oh my god. Okay. Exactsies it is. Wow. Incredibly fierce competition today. That's insane. I think this deck was the best deck I might have ever drafted in this format, but we just ran into some insane decks from our opponents as well. Go 4 and 3 in the end. I don't think we could have really drafted or played much better today. That's just how things line up. 4-3 is a super respectable record. That's a solid run all around. Just feels rough for this deck. I think this one was a phenomenal pile of cards here. Really, really nice deck. That's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Yeah, not much to say. I feel like this was just some variance today. I think that we drafted a really, really strong deck. We played about as well as we could for the most part. Just played against some really good decks from our opponents as well. They played tight, they hit the right cards at the right time, and we just fell behind a little bit. Really, really nice lifelinking combat trick from our opponent in that last game. Absolutely steals it from us. The matchup against the green-white deck, we just flooded a little bit, and it has been long enough since the first loss that I don't remember what happened there. Yeah, disappointing run for a deck this good. I think this is probably the best deck I've drafted in this format, maybe ever, but definitely in a while. So, sad to see it go 4-3, but that's still very, very solid value out of the event, pretty much breaking even today. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.